They say Father's Day is supposed to be a celebration. But when I opened that little blue card on my kitchen table, surrounded by silence and unopened baby bottles, something inside me cracked. Thank you for being the best dad, even if things turned out differently than you expected. Love, Megan. Megan was my mother-in-law. The card wasn't from my wife. And it sure as hell wasn't from my daughter. I'm Ryan. 36. 3 weeks ago, I was a husband, a new dad, and a guy who sold his prized '68 Chevelle to cover the emergency birth that saved both my wife and the baby. Now I'm sitting alone in our townhome in Fort Collins, reading between the lines of a card that smells faintly of lavender and gasoline. Let me take you back. To the beginning. My wife Claire and I had been together 8 years, married for 5. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. That's what I kept telling myself. Claire worked in marketing, I ran a small detailing business out of my garage. We both wanted kids, but it took us a while to conceive. When she finally got pregnant, it felt like we were being given something sacred. Claire's pregnancy wasn't easy. Lots of morning sickness, swollen ankles, mood swings that could cut you in half. I took it all in stride. I loved her, and I loved our daughter, even before I saw her. Then the birth. Claire had complications. Preeclampsia. I watched her go pale as the doctors rushed her into emergency C-section. I thought I was going to lose them both. When they placed that little girl in my arms, I cried harder than I ever had. She was everything. Dark hair like her mom. A dimple when she yawned. Claire was groggy, barely awake when I brought the baby to her. She turned her head and whispered, "She's beautiful." I kissed her forehead. "She looks like you." Claire didn't smile. She just closed her eyes and turned away. I didn't think much of it. She was exhausted. Out of it. But she never really came back. After we got home, things shifted. Claire was distant. Cold. She breastfed, she did the night shifts, but it was like she was running on autopilot. Like she wasn't letting herself connect. 2 weeks after we brought the baby home, I caught her crying in the laundry room. She said it was hormones. I believed her. Then, 5 days ago, I came home from picking up formula, and she was gone. Just, gone. Her clothes, her laptop, her phone charger, even the baby monitor. But not the baby. She left the baby with me. There was a note, scribbled on the back of a Target receipt. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. Don't try to find me." I thought she was having a breakdown. I called her mother in a panic. Megan didn't seem shocked. Just tired. "She needs time," she told me. "Just, focus on the baby for now." I did. I had to. Then today, Father's Day, I came downstairs and saw the card on the table. No envelope. No handwriting on the outside. Just my name, Ryan, in that careful cursive Megan always used. And inside? Those 3 lines. "Thank you for being the best dad, even if things turned out differently than you expected." My hands shook. I read it again. Then I looked at the baby monitor. My daughter was sleeping soundly in her bassinet upstairs. And for the first time, I wondered if she really was my daughter at all. I must have stared at that card for a full 10 minutes before I moved. Not because I didn't understand it. But because a part of me, the part that just spent every night feeding and rocking and loving that little girl upstairs, didn't want to. But the words were there. Even if things turned out differently than you expected. What did that mean? Was Megan trying to say thank you? Or sorry? And for what? I opened a beer I didn't really want, sat down at the kitchen table, and pulled out the small fire-safe box where we'd been stuffing all the baby paperwork, discharge forms, vaccination schedules, insurance bills. I flipped through them until I found the one I was looking for. The hospital receipt. Emergency C-section. Neonatal ICU. Blood type, baby, AB+. Claire, O-. Me. I'm O+. My brain went fuzzy. I grabbed my phone and Googled it, hands trembling. Can two O-type parents have an AB+ baby? The answer hit me like a steel bat. No. My mouth went dry. I blinked fast, hoping I'd made a mistake, that I typed it wrong. I checked again. Same answer. Science didn't lie. Either Claire wasn't O-, or I wasn't the father. I stood up and started pacing the kitchen. My heart was pounding. I wanted to scream, not because I knew the truth, but because I didn't want to. This couldn't be real. Claire. No. She would never. But then came the memories. Tiny, quiet cracks in the glass I'd been ignoring for months. That weekend last fall when she went to visit a friend in Denver. She came back distant. She cried in the shower but said it was hormones. The messages she always deleted from her phone. The one time I asked who, Jay, was on her screen and she snapped, "Don't go through my phone, Ryan." I didn't push. I trusted her. And now I had a baby upstairs that might not be mine, and a wife who'd vanished without a trace. I picked up the card again. Megan had left her number on the back. Maybe she didn't mean to let the truth slip. Maybe she thought I already knew. Or maybe, she wanted me to. I called. It rang once. Twice. Then her voice. Ryan. Not hello. Not how are you. Just my name, like a sigh. You knew. I asked. Flat. Cold. There was a pause. A soft exhale on the other end. I wasn't supposed to say anything, she whispered. But when she left, and you were still here, still taking care of that baby with everything you had, I just... Is she mine? I asked. Silence. Then, the softest voice I'd ever heard. No, Ryan. She's not. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, hand clenched around the phone, staring at the monitor where that little girl was still sleeping, peaceful and perfect. A stranger. But not really. Because she'd wrapped her tiny fingers around mine. Because I'd sung to her at 2 a.m. when she wouldn't sleep. Because I'd sold my car, my dream, to make sure she and Claire were safe. I hung up. That night, I ordered a paternity test kit online. Overnight shipping. And I sat in the dark, watching the monitor, wondering who the hell I'd become. The test arrived the next morning, brown box, no markings. I didn't open it right away. I made a bottle. Fed her. Changed her. Watched her fingers curl around the neck of her giraffe pacifier the way they always did. She cooed when I hummed Johnny Cash, like she recognized the tune. Like she knew me. It hurt more than I expected. Because every time I looked at her now, there was a shadow. A doubt. A gap between love and blood that felt like a canyon. But I did it. I swabbed my mouth. Then hers. Gently, while she blinked up at me with those big eyes that I now realized didn't look like mine. Or Claire's. I sealed the envelope. Drove to the post office in silence. Overnight it with trembling hands. Then I waited. 3 days. During that time, I didn't sleep much. I stayed up researching child custody law, parental rights, how courts viewed presumed fathers. I read stories from other men who raised kids that weren't biologically theirs, some who walked away, others who stayed. Most of them were broken in one way or another. And I kept thinking about the Chevelle. I built that car with my dad when I was 15. Piece by piece. Every dent, every bolt, every touch of rust and chrome, I knew that car like the back of my hand. Selling it felt like cutting off a limb. But I did it for Claire. For the baby. For our family. That family was gone. Claire hadn't called. Texted. Nothing. Even Megan stopped replying. I felt like I was living someone else's life. A shell of a man, changing diapers and watching reruns while his world quietly collapsed around him. Then the email came. Paternity results available. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to click it. Because even though I already knew, even though Megan had told me, part of me still hoped. Still wanted a miracle. Still wanted something to hold on to. But I opened it. Probability of paternity, 0%. 0. Clean. Absolute. Final. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window, and watched the late summer sun fall behind the fence in the backyard. The baby monitor beeped, a soft, steady rhythm that sounded suddenly very far away. I sat down on the couch. Held my face in my hands. And let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding for weeks. The next day, I called an attorney. I didn't know what I wanted exactly. I just needed someone who could help me make sense of this. A woman named Lisa Grant answered on the first ring. Her voice was calm, sharp. She'd heard stories like mine before, too many. Are you on the birth certificate? She asked. Yes. Then you have rights. But you also have risks. She explained what could happen. That Claire, as the biological mother, could come back and try to claim full custody, or nothing at all. That I could walk away, legally, if I wanted. But, she added, judges care about intent. And timing. If you wait too long, and you keep acting like the father, the court might decide you are, regardless of biology. I stared at the baby monitor again. And that's when it hit me. Claire didn't leave because she was overwhelmed. She left because she knew. She left because she thought I'd stay. And maybe she thought I'd never find out at all. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not my brother. Not my old man. Not even Joel, my best friend since middle school, who'd have driven over in 5 minutes with beer and a baseball bat. Because once you say it out loud, she's not mine, you can't unsay it. It becomes real in a way that leaves bruises. So I just kept moving. Fed her. Changed her. Rocked her through her colicky screams. I told myself I was doing it for now. Until I figured it out. But every night, I found myself pausing just a little longer by her crib. Listening to her breathe. Watching her hands twitch in her sleep. There was something devastating and beautiful about it all. Like I was watching a goodbye I wasn't ready to say. 3 days after the paternity results, Claire finally texted me. Claire, is she okay? No greeting. No, I'm sorry. No explanation. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I wrote back one word. Me, why? It took her nearly an hour to reply. Claire, because I need to know. Another hour passed before I sent anything back. Me, she's fine. She's innocent. She left me on read. That night, I couldn't sleep. I opened the safe again, not for the paperwork this time, but for the only thing that still smelled like Claire, the tiny hospital beanie they'd put on the baby after birth. Her name wasn't even stitched on it. Just, Baby Girl, Smith, in black Sharpie. I ran my fingers over it and realized something that should have been obvious from the start. She hadn't given the baby my last name. Not legally. The hospital defaulted to Smith, because Claire hadn't filled out the father section in the birth certificate packet. She told me they'd forgotten it and we'd update it later. But that wasn't an accident. That was strategy. She'd planned this. Or at least prepared for it. The next morning, I drove to Megan's house. She looked surprised when she opened the door, tired, robe half-tied, hair up in a clip like she hadn't slept in days. "Ryan. I'm not here to yell," I said. "But I need answers." She let me in. Sat me down. And for the first time, someone actually told me the truth. "She didn't want to do this," Megan said softly, pouring coffee with shaky hands. "She didn't want to lie. But she panicked." "Panicked about what?" "About losing everything. You. The house. The stability. She didn't think you'd stay if you knew." I shook my head. She was right. Megan sat across from me. Her eyes were glassy. "She thought she could raise the baby with you, and that it would be okay. That maybe it wouldn't matter. And when the guilt got too loud, she left instead of watching it crush you. She crushed me anyway." "I know," Megan whispered. "Believe me. I told her this would destroy you both. But she said something that stuck with me." I leaned forward. "She said, Ryan will never walk away. He's too good. That's what makes it worse." I felt sick. She'd counted on my goodness. Used it as her exit plan. Megan reached into a drawer and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I wasn't supposed to give you this. It was a letter. Claire's handwriting. Dated the day she left. I didn't open it. Not yet. Just stared at the name on the front, Ryan, written like a ghost was whispering it. I held the letter for hours before I opened it. It sat on my kitchen table while I made bottles, folded laundry, stared blankly at reruns of shows I used to like. Every time I reached for it, my hand pulled back. Like touching it might let her voice back in. Like reading her words would somehow make all this permanent. But after midnight, when the house was quiet and the baby was finally asleep, I turned on the small lamp by the couch and unfolded it. Her handwriting hit me like a smell I hadn't noticed I missed. "Ryan. If you're reading this, it means I didn't have the courage to say it to your face. I'm sorry. For the leaving. For the silence. For what comes next. I wish I could explain how everything got so tangled inside me. I didn't plan to lie. I didn't plan to cheat. I didn't even plan to get pregnant. It happened one night, you know when. The trip to Denver. It wasn't just a friend. His name was Aaron. We were stupid. It was one time. That's what I told myself. And then, 2 months later, I saw those 2 pink lines. You were so happy, Ryan. So ready. And I told myself, maybe it was yours. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe the universe would let me rewrite the mistake. I'm not proud of what I did next. I let you love that baby with every part of you. I watched you sell your car, the one you built with your dad, and I couldn't even look you in the eye. You were good. Too good. And I was falling apart. The truth felt like a weight I couldn't carry anymore. So I left. Not because I didn't love you, but because I couldn't stand what I'd done to you. She doesn't have your blood, Ryan. But she has your kindness. She calms when you sing. She sleeps best in your arms. She knows you. And I hope, one day, you'll forgive me. Claire. I read it twice. Then I folded it slowly and placed it back in the drawer. There were no fireworks. No rage. Just a slow, quiet cracking in a place I didn't know was still holding out hope. She loved me. But not enough. Not enough to tell the truth. Not enough to trust me. Not enough to stay and face it. The next morning, I called Lisa Grant, the attorney. I want to file, I said. For custody, she asked. No. For protection. I want legal guardianship while Claire is gone, something to keep the baby safe. She left without consent, without a plan. I've been caring for her every day. Feeding, changing, medical visits. There's no one else. Lisa was quiet. Then she said, I can file an emergency petition. And after that? After that, she said, we wait. If Claire contests it, we'll go to court. If she doesn't, you stay the legal guardian until a judge says otherwise. I hung up and looked over at the bassinet in the corner of the living room. She was awake, just blinking, calm and curious. No crying. Just, watching me. That's when I realized something that scared me more than any letter or test could. I loved her. Still. Not because I had to. But because I already did. The paperwork was filed within 48 hours. Lisa moved fast. Emergency petition for temporary guardianship, signed and notarized. It felt cold on paper, but in practice, it meant I could keep caring for the baby, my baby, without the fear that someone might show up and take her from me. It bought me time. Not peace. I still didn't have answers. Still didn't know if Claire planned to come back. Still didn't know if Aaron even knew he had a daughter. But I knew one thing, I couldn't live in limbo anymore. I booked a session with a pediatric therapist, not for the baby, but for me. I needed someone to say it was okay to feel this torn. To love her and still question what that meant. The therapist's name was Dr. Hatcher. Mid-40s, calm voice, the kind of woman who could make chaos feel structured. I told her everything, the affair, the baby, the letter, the card, the test. When I was done, she leaned back in her chair and said, Ryan, you're grieving. I frowned. I'm not grieving. I'm angry. You're both. You've lost something. The version of fatherhood you thought you were stepping into. The marriage you believed you had. And now you're rebuilding something from the ashes. That's grief too. It hit harder than I expected. Afterward, I sat in my truck in the parking lot for almost an hour, staring at the dashboard, the key in the ignition but not turning it. I thought about the nights I spent sanding the hood of that Chevelle with my dad, about the smell of motor oil and leather seats. About how we bring things back to life because we believe in second chances, not perfection. That's when I decided. If I was going to do this, raise this child, love her fully, she needed a name. A real one. Because, the baby, wasn't enough anymore. Claire had never filed the birth certificate. No one had. That's why the hospital defaulted to, Baby Girl Smith. So I did. I went to the registrar's office with a copy of the emergency guardianship paperwork, the hospital documents, the pediatrician's records, and I filled out the form myself. I gave her the name I'd wanted all along. The one Claire had said was, too old-fashioned. June Madeline Carter. June, after my grandmother, who raised 3 kids on her own. Madeline, because it sounded soft and strong at once. Carter, because I didn't care what the blood said. She was mine. The clerk double-checked the paperwork, stamped it, and smiled politely. Congratulations, Mr. Carter. I carried that certificate out of the office like it was made of gold. That night, I held her as she drifted off to sleep and whispered her full name into her tiny ear. June. My girl. My daughter. Whether Claire liked it or not. Whether Aaron ever found out or not. She was home now. But the calm didn't last long. 3 days later, I got a knock at the door. It was Claire's mother. Megan. And she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a tall man with dark hair, stiff posture, and a face I'd never seen before, but somehow knew instantly. Aaron. Aaron didn't say anything at first. He just stood there on my porch, arms stiff at his sides, eyes darting between me and the woman behind him. Megan was the one who finally spoke. He deserves to know, Ryan. I nodded slowly. Not because I agreed, but because I already knew this moment was coming. The moment the lie caught up to all of us. I stepped aside. Come in. They followed me into the living room. June was asleep in her swing, soft breaths rising and falling with that rhythmic innocence babies have, the kind that shatters adults. Aaron's eyes went straight to her. "She's mine?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer. I walked over, adjusted her blanket, and waited. Because yes, biologically, she was his. But that word felt paper-thin now. After all the bottles. The nights. The broken sleep and the lullabies. Megan sat. Aaron didn't. "She looks like Claire," he said. "But, not like me." "She's got your eyes," Megan offered. He looked at me then. "Did you know that she was mine?" "I do now." He blinked. "And you're still raising her?" I let that sink in. "I named her June," I said. "I filed the guardianship petition last week." "Claire abandoned her." "Megan can confirm that. The court's already reviewed the paperwork." Aaron stepped back like I'd slapped him. "I didn't know. I swear. Claire never told me. She said it was just a mistake, that she took care of it." "She did," I said flatly. "She left." He didn't deny it. Just stood there, hands in his jacket pockets, like he was waiting for a verdict he didn't want to hear. "I don't want to fight," he said finally. "I don't know what the right thing is, but I want to be involved. I'd like to meet her. Properly." I didn't answer right away. I just looked at June. She stirred in her sleep, letting out a small sigh before settling again. And in that moment, I made a decision I didn't know I was ready for. "I'm not going to shut the door," I said. "But I'm not handing her over either. If you want to be in her life, you do it on her terms, not through court papers and threats. She needs stability. Not a tug of war." Aaron's jaw tightened. But he nodded. "I can respect that." We exchanged numbers. Megan stayed quiet. As they left, she turned back at the door. "She's lucky to have you," she said. "Even if none of this happened the way it was supposed to." When the door shut, I exhaled. Hard. Later that night, June woke up around 2 a.m. hungry. Crying. I held her close, fed her, rocked her back to sleep in my arms. And I realized something I hadn't been sure of until that moment. I could walk away. I'd have every right. But I wouldn't. Because love isn't about DNA. It's about showing up, again and again, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Weeks passed. Then months. Aaron started visiting once a week. Quietly. Respectfully. He brought books, diapers, little toys. Nothing too big. No sudden moves. Just a man trying to do what's right, a little too late. Claire never came back. I finalized legal custody that fall. Full guardianship. June became mine, in every way the law could allow. And on Father's Day, exactly 1 year after it all began, I got a new card. This one was homemade. Crayon scribbles. A sun, a truck, a wobbly heart. It was from June. Sort of. The handwriting inside was Megan's. To the dad who chose her. Thank you. I kept that card next to the first one. Same holiday. Different truth. And I smiled. Because this time, I was exactly where I was meant to be.